Okay, guys. Try something a little different here. I didn't get a chance to talk about usability in class, so I wanted to go over it. Create essentially a narrative lecture that you can listen to at your leisure. I definitely want you guys to listen to this before the next class because we're going to do an activity that's related. But let's get into it. So usability. Why are we talking about usability? Well, usability is actually a pretty big area within human factors. A lot of usability professionals get a degree in human factors. So it's an area that that you can get into. So what is usability? Well, usability professionals are people that focus on the how user-friendly particular technological devices are, and you know these can be consumer products like mobile devices or websites or other forms of technology that your average consumer might use on a regular basis, or they can be much more sophisticated systems that only a subset of the population uses. Maybe displays in the cockpit of aircraft, or displays that you might find on the control panel of a nuclear power plant or something like that. So usability professionals will assess the usability of all different types of technology. And again, the focus here is on how usable the system is, right? As opposed to other people that are involved in the development of technology that may be focused on, how many features the technology has, or how well the design looks. Does it look really really fancy or really sleek? Things like that. The usability folks are not interested in that. They're not interested in how pretty something looks. They're not interested in the number of features it has, only to the degree that the people can actually pick up the device and use it effectively to get done whatever it is that they need to accomplish, right? So that's the focus. And usability professionals are not always conducting research in the way that we've sort of exposed you to research in this in your psych classes. There certainly are usability studies that usability professionals will execute. Will develop and execute. But that's not always what they're doing, right? So in some environments, a usability expert will use a set of heuristics to assess the usability of a product. So this is often important if the development of the particular technology is under a great deal of time pressure. So sometimes I actually worked essentially I worked for about a year and a half as a usability expert, and there were a lot of times where I needed to provide the design team with information very quickly. I didn't have a lot of time to set up a study and analyze data. So in those instances, it's important to have heuristics that you can rely on. So heuristics are, and we've talked about heuristics in the decision-making context, and it's a similar idea. So heuristics are rules of thumb. They're guidelines that usability experts will use to help inform their assessment of the of the system, of the tool, of whatever it is that they're evaluating. So that they can quickly provide valuable input into the usability of the device. So I want to share with you guys some examples of some heuristics. The first set of heuristics I want to talk about were developed by a researcher, a usability expert named Jacob Nielsen, and his specific focus is on web design. There are a lot of human factors folks that get very much involved in web design and assessing the usability of websites. So Jacob Nielsen came up with a number of heuristics. I'm going to go through a few of these here. So one of them is one area that can really limit the usability of your website if you're developing a website is having a bad search engine. So users will rely on a search engine specific to a website if they're having trouble navigating the site. And oftentimes, far too often, the search engines on websites are not very good. They don't actually help the user find what they need. And one of the major problems is that they're too literal. So the search engines can't handle any deviations from the exact terms that they're going to be searching for. So for example, they can't handle typos or plural words or things like that, right? So you need to get it. You need to get your whatever it is you're searching for. You need to get it 100% accurate. And I think example, of course, of a very good search engine is Google, right? And one way that it's very good is that it's flexible, it's adaptive, it's able to handle, for the most part, misspellings, typos, the wrong use of language. It does a fairly good job of trying to figure out what it is that you're actually looking for. Even if you've kind of misspelled it or using the slightly wrong terminology. Okay. Another heuristic is avoiding a wall of text. Right? This also applies to if you're giving a presentation. You want to avoid dense text, and consider the fact that with a website, it's a visual medium, and people aren't interested in reading. It's not like they're sitting down to read a novel. They oftentimes are skimming. They want to just find critical pieces of information to get what they need to get done. They don't want to read every little thing that's on your website. So be careful of that, and use subheadings and bullets, and if you have to use paragraphs, make them short. Over on the right here, this is I don't need to explain it too much, but just an example of a poor search engine, and it's so frustrating that this couple who wanted to go to Hawaii, now they're just going to decide to go somewhere else because the travel site that they're on won't allow them to actually get information about Honolulu. Okay, let's go over a few more a few more guidelines specific for web design. We have the next bullet here is PDF files. So sometimes you'll be searching a website and it'll take you to a page that converts into a PDF file. So now we're not looking at HTML anymore. Now we have to look at a PDF and follow all of the navigation cues or navigation features that are specific to a PDF, which are different from the rest of the website. So it breaks the search flow for the user. It's harder to navigate a PDF. It's harder to search a PDF. You're not searching for it. You're not navigating in the same way that you would be a regular website or the rest of the website. So we want to avoid that if you can. The next option, or the next guideline, I should say, heuristic, is making sure that you change the color of your links if a person's clicked on it. And that may seem like a pretty subtle difference, or a pretty insignificant change to make, but it actually really comes in handy for users if your website's pretty complicated, or it's pretty large, and navigation can be tricky. It's really helpful to make sure that the links change color, right? So typically the color of links is blue, right? We've all seen that. But when you select on, oftentimes you'll see, and you'll see this on a lot of websites, the color once you select on it changes to maybe like a darker blue or a purple. Right? So what that does is it communicates to the user that, oh, I've already clicked on this link in the past. So they're not wasting their time, because sometimes that's what happens, and I'm sure you've all experienced it, where you're searching around a website and you kind of get lost, so you go back to a previous page, and it helps to know what links you've already investigated on that page.